What is an oh crap moment where you realized you've been doing something the wrong way for years? So I owned a light blue colored microwave for about 3 years that a family member gave me for a housewarming gift. Thought it was cool, never saw a blue microwave before. One night, a buddy asked me why I never took the plastic blue wrap off of my microwave, then proceeded to peel it off for me. Damn, that B word is silver. Still, miss my blue microwave sometimes though. Next story. After moving to a new city, I went to the laundromat and the Korean lady working was yelling at me about something I couldn't understand. After some pantomime, it became clear that she was upset I was putting in the wrong detergent, but it was the same kind I've been using for 8 years. Since moving away to college and behind, turns out I've been washing my clothes with only fabric softener for nearly a decade. They always smelled so good, so I never really thought about it. Not my proudest moment. Next story. My family always had a cup next to the bathroom sink in case you needed to rinse your mouth out after brushing your teeth, or maybe get a quick drink of water in the middle of the night. My grandma had the same cup at her house, and I used it for years, whenever I was thirsty. One day, she saw me doing this and said, "Don't use that cup, that's where grandma puts her teeth." Next story. I used to fill the kettle by the spout. My parents have always done it this way. I thought the center part was mainly for decoration, but not functional. I don't know why I never questioned this. Then one day I bought a new tea kettle, and my husband was like, "What the hell, what's inside this?" And with great ease, opened the center to pull out a manual with instructions and whatnot. I was drinking dirty paper water for like 2 weeks. Next story. Found out I was lighting incense wrong. Boyfriend and I got a bunch to add to our collection of nice smells, and we would light them and they would just start a little inferno. Convinced we were buying cheap garbage incense, we stopped using them. I proceeded to buy a different brand in a hope that these would work. I test light and same thing, it just goes up in an inferno. Roommate informs us you are supposed to blow them out once they catch. Oops. Do you guys ever think about the fact that you order a product online, off of Amazon or something like that, and you give it 4 or 5 stars, works great every time, then you see somebody who gives it 1 or 2 stars, says doesn't work, blah, 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 infunctional, doesn't work as advertised, and you're like, how is this so? I feel like this might be those people. OP here is those people who you just scratch your head at and say, how is it not working for you? Sometimes the customer's wrong. If you've worked in customer service or fast food, you probably know that already. But anyway, next story. So, I always thought eggplant tasted itchy. Like itchy was a flavor, like sour or salty. Fed to some baby and his face turned red whenever the eggplant touched. And I realized we're both just allergic to eggplants. And itchy isn't a flavor. Next story. Not mine, but my dad has been spelling his name wrong his whole life. He's 51. His name is Jeffrey, Jeffrey, and he's been spelling it like that since he learned how to spell his name. Well, a few months ago, my mom pulled out his birth certificate, and we all learned it's actually spelled Jeffrey. Not sure if he spells it correctly now, but it was definitely an oh crap moment for him. Next story. My wife and I have this ceiling fan / light in our bedroom in this house that we moved into 2 years ago. It has a remote control for the fan and lights. About 1.5 years ago, the lights suddenly stopped working. The fan works well, and we didn't have a ton of money, so we've just lived with lamps in the room, always being frustrated with how damn dark it is. Well, I was scrolling some other thread on Ask Reddit, Tfue, a few weeks ago, and the top post was a guy talking about how his lights stopped working years ago. And then he found out that it was just dimmed, which you do by holding down the button on the remote. It sounded so much like our fan, and I went and tried it, and it was dimmed. Next story. Living in a foreign country where I was actively learning the language. Social cues go a long way when learning a language on the spot. That being said, someone once said a phrase to me while serving a hot dish, which I assumed meaning, "excuse me." After going through crowds and lines replicating the same phrase in an attempt to be respectful of those around me, I abruptly found out that the phrase actually meant enjoy. Hindsight completely makes sense. The odd looks I would get by saying enjoy, enjoy while squeezing past people all of a sudden made more sense. Next story. Not because I've been doing something wrong my entire life, but saw it wrong. I'm colorblind, and my entire life I thought peanut butter was green until I turned 19. And when I found out it was brown, my mind was blown. It took so long because no one really talks about the color of things like that. Next story. For years, I would struggle to take the cap off of new deodorant. The one under the lid, it always is so stuck down onto the deodorant stick. Then I had an aha moment a year or so ago that I could simply crank the deodorant stick up until the cap could easily be removed. I'm 34. It took me until the age of 34 to realize this. It's okay, OP. I only learned about this last year. It was like on a Instagram post or a TikTok that became an Instagram post. Things get shared and stolen a lot. But yeah, the whole reaction was, oh, I didn't know that. And B, they should probably do a better job of indicating that. But also, it's kind of obvious in hindsight. But anyway, next story. So, when I first got a credit card, we would go out and eat at restaurants with my friends. I would leave a cash tip on the table. When I got the receipt to put how much I was paying, I would write down how much money I left on the table. For at least 6 months, I gave double tips to every waitress I had. Next story. I have a flashlight that I've had for nearly a decade. I originally got it because it really looks like a lightsaber, and it was cheap. Plus, you could twist the lens around to focus it, or so I thought. When I got home and put the batteries in it, I found out that twisting the top didn't change the focus. I assumed the top being able to twist was just a result of it being cheap. Then fast forward to a month or so ago, a storm picked up during the night, so I went out to check that nothing was being blown away, and as I was trying to open the gate, the flashlight slipped, and I caught it by the top part that twists, but the rest of the flashlight slid about 2 inches down from the twisty part, and it turns out if you pull the top part up, it turns into a lantern type thing for lighting up an area. It's nothing big, but there have been times where it would have been incredibly useful to be able to put the torch down and light up a wide area. Next story. My mom refused to show me how to use a tampon because she thought I should stick to pads because they were safer. This was back when Googling how to do things wasn't really an option, and I was the first in my friend group to get my period and a little sheepish about it. So basically, I was shoving that sucker up there with the entire applicator for like 2 years, wondering why tampons didn't seem to work that well for me. It wasn't until I was in high school and one of my friends went on a crusade against plastic waste and started advocating for tampons with no applicators that all of a sudden I realized I had massively effed up. Next story. Former school nurse here. The number of high school boys who don't know what circumcision is amazingly high. Many think they were born circumcised. When they finally see a foreskin, they are in complete awe. When they found out the brown ring on their chicken is a scar from where their foreskin was removed, they are also completely amazed. Alright guys, I'm gonna be honest, I didn't know about the brown ring thing. I did just learn that. But anyway, next story. So, my name is Ryan, and it took me until I was in first grade to realize my name wasn't in the alphabet. My mom had told me that my name was in the alphabet, and I felt so lucky. She obviously meant the letters to spell my name were in the alphabet. But nope, it took me that long to realize that the alphabet didn't go W, X, Ryan, Z. Next story. Sometimes I assume I know the lyrics to a song I've heard on the radio for a long time. I always sang Toto's Africa as I miss the rains down in Africa, until someone made fun of me and told me it's I bless the rains down in Africa. I argued that makes no sense. Why would someone bless rain? It's a song about longing to return to Africa, which is why they miss the rain. Then I went home and looked up the lyrics. I'm 31 and never knew this. No one ever said anything, never saw anyone do this. Crappiest thing is that my parents also learned this the hard way and never bothered to give me a tip when I bought my first dryer. Luckily, the wife and I discovered the lint buildup when changing the rollers. I said to my parents, wow, it really builds up in there. And they were like, oh yeah, you need to do that like once a year. What? Next story. So I had always assumed that gas stations had pipes that led to a nearby oil plant or something. I live in Houston, so during Hurricane Harvey in 2017, there was so much news about the gas stations being empty because they weren't being filled. I was in the car with my sisters and we were talking about it, and I mentioned I don't understand how the gas supply was limited when the pipes are underground and not affected by the flooding. And they both looked at me with the most confused faces ever, and one of them said, "You do know that trucks come to fill up gas stations, right?" And I was completely shook by this and had no idea. And they asked me, so when you see the big trucks at a little gas station in the city with the tubes in the ground, what did you think they were doing? And I replied, filling up their gas? Not something I did wrong, but definitely something I thought wrong for 17 years. Next story. Well, this was a few years ago. I was the director of IT for a very large company, and I was given a new cell phone and told to set up my voicemail. I didn't know, though, that when I recorded my name, it would be played to whomever I leave a voicemail for. Well, the name I recorded was Duder84 Corporate IT God. I worked there for 4 years until someone in the hallway referred to me as the corporate IT god. I was so embarrassed. Next story. Not wrong for years, but I work for Help Desk and we use a specific, terrible piece of software for our support system, IBM Notes. It turns out that for the first 9 months I had been working there, it wasn't set up properly, so I wasn't sending any emails from it at all. No notifications that the ticket went to me, no responses from me, no closed notifications, nothing. Someone noticed this, took a look, and fixed a setting, and I immediately sent out over 1,000 emails to everyone in the company. Next story. No one ever really told me you don't need to buy shoes with the 2-finger space in front of the toes after your feet stop growing. I had been buying an entire size too big until about age 23. 23! One day in college, I decided to try a pair of Merrell barefoot type shoes, and after reading the sizing guide, bam! Mind blown. It's a terribly obvious mistake that I, 29F, like to blame on being an only child, but really, I'm just an effing moron. Next story. I used to think just reading the material was how everyone studied, so that's how I did it too. I never quite understood why my grades were so low. I'd be like, I read the page, I don't know what happened, until I saw my friend making flowcharts and summaries, and I was like, hey, we don't have to do that, you know? And he was like, nah, I'm just studying. And it blew my mind how much better my grades got. Next story. I am lactose intolerant. I genuinely did not know this for the first 25 plus years of my life. I always had to go to the bathroom after eating something with cheese in it. One day, it just clicked. I bought some Lactaid, took it before the next time I ate cheese, and I didn't have to go to the bathroom. It was mind-blowing. I have no idea how I didn't make the connection for years. So I guess you could say instead of having an oh crap moment, I had a no crap moment instead. So I am personally not lactose intolerant, but I put 2 people on Lactaid pills last year, and I just thought that was a thing everyone knew about, but they didn't. So I was like, have you tried Lactaid pills? And they're like, what? What are those? So then they go get them, and they're like, Kevin, I just had pizza today. I just had cheese. I just had ice cream. And I'm like, congrats. I was super happy for them, but I just thought that was a thing people knew about, but apparently not. So if you're lactose intolerant, get some Lactaid pills and enjoy a pizza, ice cream, milkshake all at the same time, and then vomit. Live a little. Anyway, next story. So for me, it was wiping my ass. I always thought everyone reached their hand between their legs from the front, but after someone making a joke about wiping their ass, I asked how they did it. Then for curiosity's sake, I asked a bunch more people, and apparently, I'm the only person I know that wipes their ass from between their legs. Next story. I grew up without a mom. She passed away when I was 6 years old. I was afraid to ask my dad how to put a tampon in. One day I made a comment about age 18 to some friends that tampons hang out too far from your bajingo. It made me feel like I waddled when I walk. My friend asked me how I put them in, and I thought it would get stuck up there and wasn't inserting it far enough. Did it wrong for about 5 years. My friends still make fun of me for it. I can't help but use the dead mom card, but looking back, it's pretty common sense how to shove it up in there. Edit. For all of those asking, I didn't really feel comfortable with my body, so I'm not sure I really understood what the directions were asking. Then for others asking, my dad was a really good dad. Obviously, he made some general mistakes as a parent, as all parents do, but as a substitute mother, he did a great job. He taught me how to shave my legs, funny voices and all, and he was a Girl Scout troop leader for almost 10 years. He tried to figure out how to French braid, and he did comb my nasty-ass ratty hair on a daily basis. Next story. Back in the early 2010s, my boyfriend and I had a PlayStation that we used for Netflix, etc., since we didn't have a smart TV. The controller was on such a short cord that we would always have to get up from the couch to change the program or push any buttons. My boyfriend also used to have to sit on the floor close to the TV to play his video games, since the cord was so short. One day, my brother came to visit, and we put something on Netflix, and got up to use the remote like we always did. And my brother proceeds to unplug the controller, hands it to us, and says, "You realize this is a wireless controller, right?" And we were dumbfounded. Why would there be a cord coming from it? Turns out, that's just to charge our wireless controller. Mind blown. Next story. We bought a nice liquor cabinet. We got it delivered and noticed it was a bit shorter than we thought it would be. No biggie. 3 years later, we were moving, lift up cabinet, and these beautiful, ornate, screw-on legs wrapped in tape and bubble wrap fall off the bottom. Looks so much better now. Next story. Not really doing something, but I completely thought that the White House was in Washington, the state, until I was like 23. It's a hole in my knowledge I can neither explain nor defend. I have since visited and confirmed it is in DC. Next story. So I thought of a second one. I was incredibly sheltered growing up. Anything sex-related was taboo and not discussed. I was in middle school when instant messaging really became mainstream, and I couldn't understand why the boy I had a crush on kept laughing at me and telling me not to use the shorthand cum for come C-O-M-E. I didn't find out for a few years. And a related thing, I genuinely thought a hand job was essentially frantically waving side to side with the palm of the wiener, and a BJ was, you guessed it, blowing on it until probably around 8th grade. Oh boy. Next story. I was dating an Asian woman some years ago, and when we got Chinese takeout, she completely unfolded the box and laid it out flat like a plate. She said that was by design, and for the life of her could never understand why her friends always scooped it out onto another plate when the box was the plate. I now do this all the time, and it weirds people out. Next story. Playing an N64. Now, it wasn't years, only about one, but I got an N64 for Christmas the year they came out with the Super Mario 64. Unfortunately, my friend had splurged to get me the game in the video game system, so I didn't get a new game until my birthday nearly a year later. October birthday, FYI. Until that time, I played the N64 by gripping the outer prongs of the controller. It wasn't until I saw a program of recommended playstyles in the instruction booklet for Star Wars Shadow of the Empire that I realized it was much easier to put my left hand on the center of the prong. Next story. Until last week, when my father-in-law would make a phone call on his very basic, non-touch screen flip phone, he would open the menu, scroll to the phone icon, open it, hit the soft key for contacts, scroll to the person he wanted to call, press OK, then pressed the soft key to call. When he mentioned how he preferred his landline because he could just dial the number in, I said, "Humor me, just dial the number and hit the talk button." And I've never seen a man so simultaneously grateful and embarrassed. Next story. 6 years ago, my friend got me a pair of these Shure earphones for Christmas. They were pretty good earphones, not the best, but pretty good sound quality and decent noise cancellation. Then, in October of 2017, we took a bus up to Minnesota to visit a friend for a few days. We chose the late bus so we could just sleep during the 8 hours it would take us to get there. And we're getting settled, and I see him pull out his earphones, which were the same as mine, and put them on like this over the ear. I've never worn them like that. I just kind of jammed them in a way that they fit. And I asked him about wearing them, and he said, "What do you mean? That's how you're supposed to wear them. How do you wear them?" And I showed him how I typically wore them, and he laughed and said, "Wearing them the right way gets a better seal for the sound." And I still wore them my way until he fell asleep, and then I decided to give his way a chance, and holy crap, it made such a huge difference. The sound was better, they felt more comfortable, and they were so much better at canceling out noise. When we got to the first stop, I told him, "Why the hell didn't you tell me I was wearing them wrong for so many years? This is so much better." And he told me I should have read the manual. But in my defense, I didn't think I had to read the manual for a pair of earbuds. Next story. My eldest child had a penchant for blowing out of his diapers, and we tried everything. But multiple times a week, we had to pull that poo-filled onesie over his head and inevitably give our now super-duper poo-covered infant a bath. Then, around when I was pregnant with our second child, a post went viral about how infant onesies are designed to be broad at the shoulders so you can pull them down and off instead of over the head. Poor kid would have had so many fewer poo and hair incidents had I known that then. Next story. Kraft mac and cheese. Up until a few months ago, I would drain the noodles, add them back to the pot, and then add the milk, butter, and cheese packet. It took forever to get all of the clumps out. Then I realized it would be just way easier to add the milk, butter, and cheese to the already hot pan and make a cheese sauce while the noodles are draining. No more clumps. Next story. A couple of years ago, I was trying to open some toothpaste and had to break the seal of the tube. I used to look for something like a nail to break it. Then one day, I looked at the pointy end of the cap and thought, what if I could use this to break it? And oh crap, it did fit and broke it effortlessly. And so did every other tube product I had in the house and their respective cap. My mind was blown. Next story. I was at a Crate and Barrel with my girlfriend talking about how it's so weird they don't make tongs so you can open them up super wide and then press in. I thought it was odd that they only gave you a super tiny opening. In the middle of me saying this, she just presses the button at the bottom of the tongs I was holding, and I stopped mid-sentence in shame. Next story. Do you ever buy a soda in a 6 or 8 pack of bottles and then struggle to twist and pull the bottle out of the tight plastic rings? There's a pull tab connected to a serrated line through the plastic. You can just pull that, and then the plastic will break easily when you pull at the bottle. My aunt taught me this about 20 years ago because no one in my immediate family was aware of it. I let my fiance in on the secret just last week. Next story. It wasn't very long, but when I was learning to drive, my dad was explaining the rule of thumb regarding a safe distance to be behind the car in front of you. I thought it meant to hold your thumb up, and if your thumb didn't cover the entire car, you were too close to it. Then, down the line when he caught me doing that, he asked me what I was doing. When I explained, he burst out laughing, then considered it and concluded it wasn't a bad idea, but perhaps a bit distracting. Next story. My SO and I were in a fight one time, and he said, "You are unbelievably selfish and impossible to talk to." And somehow my defense mechanisms were not engaged at that moment because I heard him and realized it was true. I saw for the first time that I had been mostly an a-hole all my life. That is, super defensive and wrong about a lot of things, aka a narcissist. I have since had to learn how to be kind, to listen, to give back, and while it has been very hard, I still cringe often when I think back on many moments in my life. I now know I was wrong, and my life is so much better. Next story. I used to open a banana by holding it in the middle and peeling it down, traditionally from the stem, after snapping it to the side. Then I saw a documentary about monkeys one time, and they open them by driving their thumb into the other flat end and push in it like it's a button. The air bubble pops it out, then they peel it back. And a bonus, the stem is like a handle to hold it from. Not taking financial advice from monkeys, but bananas? They're onto something. Next story. I lived in a house for 6 years with a bathroom with no shelf or cupboard to put toiletries into. I was very disappointed and ended up using a windowsill that was way too small to fit everything. Anyway, one day we had a friend over and he asked why we don't have anything in our bathroom cupboard, and I was confused. So he showed me. It turns out that the mirror I had been using for 6 years has a hidden compartment behind it. It was a mirrored door to a mounted cupboard on the wall. I was astonished and immediately moved all of my stuff from the window into the new space. My friend was baffled that I had never figured out there was a space behind the mirror. There was an obvious gap between it and the wall that I somehow failed to notice. Next story. As a boy, I had an unconventional method of self-pleasuring. It would require a diagram to get across all of its subtleties, but let's just say that it required 2 hands, was not intuitive, and simulated no known sex act. It was suboptimal. So after a year or so of convoluted self-abuse, one of the other kids made the international whack-off hand gesture towards me, and my jaw dropped. I instantly knew that I had been doing it wrong all that time. It was so simple, so obvious, way quieter, and way more effective. I tried it that night and never looked back. That dude changed my life. Thank you, Chris Eastman. Next story. This is my first Reddit post. My father would cook grilled cheese sandwiches for breakfast when I was growing up. He'd burn those suckers a good 75% of the time. When he'd drop the crispy blank sando in front of me, he'd always say, "Cleans your teeth." I was 22 when a roommate saw me burn a grilled cheese sandwich. I wasn't concerned and explained, "It cleans your teeth." And with immediate disbelief, he accused me of lying. Ratatouille style, I was transported back to being a child, a time when I believed my dad might not lie to me nearly first thing every morning. I later confronted my father, and he got a kick out of it. Next story. One day I was with my friends and we were talking about almonds, but when I said the word, they all looked at me funny, and apparently I say it wrong. They say it to where it almost sounds like owl, so almond. But I say it like the name Al, so I say almond, with a more pronounced A. They thought it was hilarious, especially since I was with my twin sister and she doesn't say it like me. So I had to listen back because I said the word so many times reading this story, but I say almond. I don't say almond. Almond? Or you know, we're just gonna do almond. Almondy, that's what we're doing. Almond, compromise in the middle, whatever. Next story. When I was a kid and I was acting up, my dad would always threaten to leave me at this mean old lady's house. Her name was Helen Handbasket. Fast forward about 28 years later and it clicks. Out of nowhere while I was on a customer call at work. The customer says, "This whole network is going to hell in a handbasket." Me, I'm an idiot. Did you figure it out? Oh no, not yet. Next story. Not entirely doing it wrong, but did it worst. I hated getting into the shower, turning in the water, and then splashed with cold water till it turns to a more tolerable temperature. I ended up just standing in the corner in the cold waiting for the water to warm up, until I came by a comment on Reddit to just turn on the shower before getting in and wait for it to warm up. And ever since then, I've been doing that since. Next story. So, I was fortunate enough to buy buy my own home due to unfortunate circumstances. I moved in and the thermostat thing was set to about 70 degrees Fahrenheit. As time went on, I couldn't figure out why there was no visible way for me to change the temperature. My electric bill would be through the roof every month. The thermostat is well above my eye level, and I lived alone for quite some time, though family and friends did visit regularly. Anyway, after several months of leaving windows opened or closed to adapt to the change in weather, I finally asked my niece, I think, to check the thermostat for a way to change the temperature. She looked around for a bit and saw that there was a tab I was supposed to pull to reveal all of the buttons and settings on the damn thermostat. And I said, oh crap. Next story. Oh, not me. It was my first year in my profession though, but I see it all the time. People who don't know you need to cut off the little thread that keeps the vent in your skirts, suit jackets, winter coats closed. First day of intern season, I want to run around with a little pair of scissors helping people out with their brand new suits. Next story. Opening milk bottles. They all have that flap of plastic that you can grip to peel the cover off. I've ignored that for however long they've been doing them. It took my mom coming over to visit from overseas, watching me open a new bottle, and asking me why I'm not using the flap for a grip. And I actually asked what she meant, and she showed me. I felt like I was 5 and learning how to subtract triple-digit numbers all over again. Next story. When I was a kid, I loved drinking coffee, but didn't know how to make it. My mom taught me, but the coffee ratio she told me to use was like 1 tablespoon per 1 pot, as opposed to the actual ratio of 1 tablespoon to 1 cup of water. So, fast forward about 13 years to a couple of months ago, and I was reading my back of my Folgers coffee thing, and there was a little diagram showing how much to actually use. I then realized my mom had told me the wrong amount, so I A, wouldn't drink all of her coffee, and B, wasn't super hyped up going into school. Next story. When I was a junior in college, I read a paper that alluded to the Underground Railroad. My roommate did a quick read-through for me and said, "This is great, except it seems like you think that the Underground Railroad was literally underground." And I truly believed there was a set of tunnels that made up the Underground Railroad. Didn't learn elsewise until I was 21. Thanks, public school education. Next story. Well, to start off, I am male, who grew up with my grandma and my mom. So, growing up, I had very few male influences, and I'm 34 now, so internet sucked. Anyway, when I was 12, my mom decided to move us in with her boyfriend. The first night in our new place, I walked out of the shower with my towel on, and my stepdad says, "What are you doing? You're not a girl." And I looked confused, and I said, "I know. Why?" He then said, "Guys don't wear towels like that." I then realized I had always worn my towel up to my chest since that's all I saw growing up, not realizing it was so they would cover their boobs. I was so embarrassed. So yeah, long story short, I wore my towel like a female until I was 12. Next story. Brake jobs are expensive, so I got a friend of mine to show me how to change the shoes. He didn't explain much, just focused on getting the job that he didn't want to do done, so I just watched intently. Well, when the brakes needed doing again a year or so later, I made a decision that would cause me no small amount of frustration for years to come. I removed the entire caliper. Now, the brake line would still be attached, so I would work the old shoes out and curse and cry until the new ones were in place, all while hunched over in the wheel while the caliper tethered to the car with a very short rope. Well, finally, my wife needed the brakes done on her new car, and I just couldn't get the new shoes into place. Jesus Christ, man, I'm doing something wrong. I know I'm doing something wrong. I've always known I'm doing something wrong. And off to YouTube I went. F me running. The caliper comes apart for 2 lousy bolts. It's the part you need to work on that can be brought over to the bench, and the shoes just slip into place. Next story. As a kid, I never knew that saving in video games was a thing. Whenever I looked at the menu screen, I just didn't think much of it and just ignored it. After a few years, maybe when I was about 11 years old, I started watching gaming videos on YouTube and saw that you could save your progress. Little old me was absolutely mind blown that Pokemon wasn't supposed to be played in less than a day, and that I could actually save my progress. Next story. I took my then girlfriend to a fancy Baja bucket joint in San Diego, and we each ordered a variety bucket full of shrimp, lobster, carne asada, chicken, etc. Well, trying to be suave and playful, I went to feed her a single shrimp tail from my bucket. She giggled, and I put the shrimp in her mouth but held the tail, because nobody eats that, and she bit down, and I pulled the tail away, and she chewed, then stopped. Then chewed once more and stopped, and she stared at me with a "the hell are you doing" look on her face. This is when I learned about peeling shrimp. Next story. I have a tendency to think I know all about something, but end up being completely wrong, like the word carafe. I thought it was pronounced like carafe, and I would use that word often at my old job. Corporate came in once to visit, and I walked them through my department, all while telling them that our new carafes have been so popular and selling like crazy. Then also the word Segway. I thought it was the best word ever, like I was such a grown-up for knowing it, but I spelled it Segway, Segway. And I used it in all of my essays, my AP tests, finals, college essays. I mean, I was accepted, so it all worked out eventually, I guess. So, for those who don't know what a carafe is, like me, because I've never heard that word before, I know I'm so dumb. It is an open-topped glass flask typically used for serving wine or water. Well, it's probably why I don't know. I don't drink wine. But anyway, now you know too. Next story. Over the years, I had several girlfriends, and from time to time, they would vent their frustrations or come to me when they were upset, and I often half-listened before beginning my efforts to badger them with the obvious solution to the problem. And it took too long a time for me to realize that they were more than capable of solving their own problems and were looking for a boyfriend, not a life coach. Next story. The first time I grilled asparagus on my Weber kettle, I'd been steaming it for 20 years. It's 3 to 5 times better when you grill it. And by steaming, I mean putting it in the asparagus steamer on the stove, then cooking it until it was bright green and semi-firm, not putting it in a pot of water and boiling it until it was gray and soggy. Next story. For about 2 years, my bathtub wouldn't drain all the way, leaving a bit of standing water that in turn created a nasty ring every 2 weeks. I busted my ass trying to fix it, but I couldn't fix the clog. And I would clean the tub every 2 weeks or so pretty hard. After about 2 years, I just randomly messed with the shower tub thingy and realized it wasn't all the way in tub mode. Next story. Filling in race surveys the right way. I'm biracial, Colombian, and what I used to think was black. Mom is white passing 100% Colombian. Dad is darker, and I'm mixed between the two. I always put my race down as African American and Hispanic. It wasn't until I started filling out paperwork for things like college when my parents told me I'm actually Colombian and Puerto Rican. Kind of a weird culture shock when most of my life I was telling people I was black and Colombian. Next story. I worked at a popular fast food chain for my first real job at the age of 16. I was a picky eater and barely ate anything on the menu there, so I didn't really know anything about the food. I didn't really know anything about food in general. So I got through training with the understanding that the French dip sub got a little bowl of coffee with it. I figured that it was called an au jus when paired with the sub sandwich. Well, fast forward about 6 years and I'm with a friend who just ordered the French dip sub, and as any good friend would, I let them in on the industry secret of au jus just being coffee. The friend quickly corrects me while showing me that their au jus was nothing like coffee. So, for 6 years, I thought au jus was just coffee. In the month that I worked at the fast food place, nobody ever complained about the little bowl of coffee that I served them with their FDS. Maybe it's good. I still won't eat that crap, though. Well, guys, we're at the end of the video. This has been a fun one, a lighthearted one. I don't know if I have any other personal stories. I'm sure there is something I was doing wrong for a long time, maybe not 20 years, but nothing else jogged my memory, so I can't share any personal anecdotes. But if you have any, feel free to share them in the comments. Thank you all so much for watching, guys, commenting. Have a really good day, and bye-bye!